What's going on YouTube? All right, let's see what I got. Oh, a little dark over here, so I'm going to go ahead and add some light. All right, let's shine a light on them. A little better, but either way, we're gonna go ahead and get started. That is a lesson, so let's just check in and see who is here with me. Let me turn down the volume a little bit, make sure everything is good. All right, make sure there's no feedback here. So thank you, everyone. It's about 6 o'clock, and it's time for the weekly workshop. It's good to see you all. Coach Trev, the accountability coach, ready to jump right in. We're talking about restart smart, how to begin again without starting over. So let's go ahead and let's pull the PowerPoint up. And be sure if you're here for the first time, put hashtag live into the chat. If you're here watching this on a replay, put hashtag replay in the chat. Reason why I ask you to do that is to be sure that I get notification. So if you have any questions that you're putting in the chat, I will be able to help you out immediately. So that's one of the key things as well. Also, if you are new to this channel, just be sure that you like, subscribe, hit the bells for notifications so that you'll get some notices when I post content daily, all that good stuff. All right. So how to restart smart. Let's go ahead and get the PowerPoint up. So what I want to do is I want to get this information to you so that you're able to get this right away. So let's pull some of this down and let's get all of this up. My goodness. And so this is when really a lot of people you definitely will be able to relate to this because many times we'll wait till Monday or we'll wait till January 1st. You'll wait till the weekend is over. So this is me restarting, but it's a different mindset. So what we want to do is we want to look at the reasons behind that, and we want to get you some tactics that you'll be able to employ immediately. And also there'll be an opportunity to be able to really personalize the information that I'm giving you. So let me go ahead and share the screen. So actually, let's go ahead and put the recording on. That would be key. Here we go. And let's go ahead. So, all right, everyone. So ready to start this, the restart smart, how to begin again without starting over, making sure, letting you know that instead of you waiting for Monday, waiting for the new year, this is for you. This is you getting your start in now. So what I want to do is share the PowerPoint and get some tips into you so that you're able to use this and also get you an opportunity as we get to a close that you can really take this information and personalize it. So let me share my screen and we're going to jump right in. Excellent. And for those of you who haven't already, if you're new to the channel, be sure that you subscribe, like, comment, share, all that good things. Hit the bells for notifications so you'll get notified anytime I post to go live or do my weekly workshop, which happens here every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So let's go ahead and let me start the PowerPoint. Remember, these are some tips and tools. Now, if you're here live, definitely put hashtag live. If you're watching this on a replay, put hashtag replay. That way, I'll get notification if you have any notes or things like that. So I want to welcome you all tonight. What we're going to do tonight is solve a problem that's been driving many people crazy, which is why you keep starting the same goals over and over. But when you start them over, you never seem to get anywhere. So that's what we're going to, and whatever your goal is, your goal could be whether it's getting healthier, whether it's starting a business, expanding a business, writing a book, whether it's purchasing a home, a car, if you're looking for a promotion, a new position, any of those things. These are going to be some tools you'll be able to use in whatever your goal is. All right. So let's dive right in. So let's start with the real problem that we're all dealing with. So you keep starting the same goals over and over, but you don't seem to get anywhere. And it seems like every time you mess up, you miss a few days, you have a bad week, whatever the case may be. It's like you throw everything away and you start from scratch. You take everything and you wipe the slate clean, and you're starting from scratch. When you do that, it's basically like being in a loop where you're always a beginner. And even though you've been trying the same thing for months or for years, all that, it's still you're in that similar loop. You're always a beginner. So does that sound familiar? Then here's why this pattern is so damaging. Why? Because first, what happens is you waste massive amounts of time relearning the same lessons over and over. Yes. Now, the second thing is you never build real momentum or confidence. Why? Because you keep hitting the reset button. So when you're hitting that button over and over again, the momentum goes up and it goes down. It is an EKG. There's no consistency with that. And the third thing is you start to believe that you're just the kind of person who can't follow through on commitments. So you start to beat yourself up and condemn yourself. And worst of all is that every time you restart, it gets harder. Why? Because you lose trust in yourself. You begin to condemn yourself, you beat yourself up, you're telling yourselves things that's pushing you even further and further down. So that's an issue. So now what we want to do is the cost of staying stuck. Look, think about that. Because if you don't fix this pattern, here's what your future looks like. One, you're still going to be starting over the same goals next year, and then the next year after that, and then the year after that. What also what's going to happen is that your confidence will continue to erode every time you abandon every attempt, right? You miss out on incredible compounding effects that come from building on your progress. And what happened is, as you're missing these things, you keep watching other people achieve the exact things you keep trying to achieve, wondering why it's easy for them, but it's so difficult for you. So that's the cost of staying stuck. So there's a need to fix this. Now, I wanted to make this clear, and that's why I put this at the top of the slide, that this isn't my opinion. This is research. Okay. So this is data, right? So let's begin to look at this so that we can understand this. One, studies show that people who track progress are 42% more likely to achieve their goals, right? So tracking, that's one of the things that's key. 42%, huge number. The next thing, it takes 66 days to form a new habit, but most people quit by day 7. So many times people will think about the 21 that was out there. 21 days to form a habit. It's been tested. These are studies. 66 days to form, personalize, and permanent a habit. So that's key. And now here is one of the most important one. Successful people will fail an average of 3.8 times before achieving their goals. So the difference between with the successful people is that they don't just start over. They restart smart. And that's what our discussion is, how you can restart smart. Right? So this problem here, this big problem of restarting and restarting smart, it breaks down into really 3 smaller, more manageable issues. So problem one is that you throw away your data every single time you fail. You wipe the slate and you're starting from scratch. No, you act like you've learned nothing new and you start with that. So that's problem number one. Problem two is you restart at the wrong times. What do I mean by that? It means that you wait until you feel guilty, or because it's Monday, or it's the start of a month, or there's something going on around you. So you're waiting until that. So you're waiting until these specific times in your head, not when the conditions are actually right for your success. That's problem number two. And the third problem is You're using the same approach. You keep trying to do the same thing that didn't work before, just hoping this time will be different. Remember, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So now that we've broken this down into these three problems, let's talk about problem number one. Problem number one we talked about is you throw away your data. So what do you need to do? The solution, you need to keep your data. So before you start anything, and here's the fix, before you start anything, this is what you need to do. Analyze what actually worked. Even if it was brief, even if it was for a small amount of time, analyze what worked. That's going to be key. When you analyze it, you want to identify your specific triggers and patterns. When do you typically fall off the track? What is it? Is it a certain sound, a certain event? Is it you're listening to certain things here? What's the issue? Okay. And so bear with me while I get some light here. Because I noticed that I am in the dark, but that's quite all right. I'm going to fix that. So now that I am lit up, hey, you can see me. So you identify your specific triggers and patterns. Then you want to build on your strengths and what you learned about yourself. You don't ignore them, you build on them. Because once you analyze, you identify, then you're able to build, because that's your foundation. So that's solution one. Keep your data. Now, for problem two, we talked about it. You restarted wrong times. What you need to do is you want to time your restart strategically. What do I mean by that? I mean, wait until you actually have realistic time and energy available. It's not just because it's Monday or because, Friday's here, because, it's the first of the month, or because it's the 7th, the new year has started. You want to wait until you have a realistic time and energy available. What you also want to do is start when you have the momentum, when you're motivated and you have the momentum, you have a clear vision. There's a difference between starting when you have vision versus starting when you have guilt. Because when you have guilt, your guilt about what you haven't done, that's a negative impact. That's a negative trigger, trampoline, and it won't help you as you're moving forward with them. Then you also want to choose strategic timing based on your life circumstances, not like arbitrary timing saying, well, it's Monday or January 1st. You want to be sure that it is very strategic when it comes to your restart. Okay. Now, solution three, you use the same approach. So for problem three, you want to modify your approach based on what you learned. So the first thing is you use your experience to improve your strategy, not to ignore it. And so how do you do that? You start smaller than you think you need to. And then you go and think about that, because people want to start massively big. I want to do that. Start smaller, because your ego wants you to go big, but your experience tells you to start where at a place you can sustain. So start there. And when you start there, you can address specifically the things that derailed you last time. So it's not you just hoping it won't happen. It's you now addressing it, putting it on the spotlight, making sure that you are meeting those demands, addressing them, and finding the solutions for that. That's a key thing. So that's really what it comes down to about modifying your approach. So question is, what's something that you can do today? So what you can do today is something you can start right now. So before you restart anything, like, you have workout routines, business routines, whatever it is, you want to write down three things. Okay. So one of the things is you want to write down what worked well in your last attempt. What were the things that really stood out, that were a benefit, that pushed you forward? Uh, Next, you want to write down what specifically caused you to stop. What was it? What was the trigger that did that? And the third thing is, what's one, not three, not two, what's one small change you can make to address that problem? Because what happens, you don't restart until you have clear answers to all three questions. Once you have clarity on that, then you can restart. Once Many times the issue is that people are starting from a place of fuzziness. They're not sure. There's foggy out there that says, well, I'm just going to restart. No, you want to restart smart. So start from a place of clarity when you get all answers, clear answers to the three questions. That's key. So with this unique approach, most coaches out there will tell you to just start over, start on Monday. Let's look at today is Monday, or what you can do is, or let's try harder next time. Let's add one more minute. Let's add one more line. Let's go, let's push, let's dig deep down. That's not it. But what I've learned from coaching people for over nearly 2 decades, I've learned something different. And that people who actually succeed, they don't start over. They restart smart. And they restart smart by using their experience as their foundation. And that experience is not something that's thrown away, but it helps them to move forward in that. So in that foundation. So the key thing about this is that they're now utilizing it. That's their foundation. They're modifying their approach. They're looking at what their triggers are, and they're starting strategically. So that's the key thing there is that they know all these solutions. They're keeping their data, they're timing their restart, they're modifying their approach. That's what's key about that. And their experience is what the foundation. So now that you have this information, the question is, what's the next step? Well, here's something that I like to do. Since I've been doing this for close to 2 decades, is not too much that I haven't seen when it comes to this restart cycle. You know, I've had dozens of people get tremendous success by learning to restart smart instead of starting over. And what I would love to do is really give you an opportunity to get on a call with me so that I can give you some practical advice that's really specific to your situation. That way you can have success as well to tie with it. Because the information that I'm giving you, this is general, but what we want to do is really we want to personalize it. So that's the key thing. And you want to understand too is that when it comes to this, you started pursuing a goal for a reason. There's something you wanted to achieve, someone you wanted to become, or a life you wanted to create. Now, the only reason you haven't achieved it yet is because you keep throwing away your progress and starting over instead of building on it. But what it is you deserve to build on what you've learned. And just with a couple of quick mindset shifts that are personalized for you, we can work together and I can show you how to restart with confidence so you can finally make the progress you've been working towards. That's really what I want for you. I want, I really feel that you deserve to move forward in this. So let's do a quick recap. Here's what we talked about today. We identified the real problem, which is that you're quick, you're stuck in a restart loop that keeps you from making real progress. What we did is we broke that down into three specific parts, which is throwing away data, bad timing, and the same approach that didn't work before. And what we covered the solutions, which is keep your data and build on it, time your restart strategically, and modify your approach based on what you actually learned. So, and we left one action step. Answer three questions before restarting. So that's key. So for a limited time, what I want you to understand is that because we're now in the middle of the week, I have challenges. I have very limited time on my calendar for strategy calls. So while I do have some dedicated times to work with people like yourself, there aren't many slots available and they can fill up fast from these workshops. So what it does is probably makes sense for you right now to book that time. And so I'm going to put a link into the chat. I'm putting it in now. It is talkwithtrevor.com. Let me type that in. There it is. All right, so the link is in the chat, and if you click on that, you can see if there's still time available and grab one of those spots before they fill up, right? So while we look into that and we review this, let's take a quick time for some questions. I'm going to check some chats and things. What questions do you have about smart restarting or breaking out of this restart loop when you've been stuck in? So one question maybe, and this is for those that saw my workshop last week, maybe how do I tie this in to and make this a new habit to be able to incorporate these questions? So we know it takes 66 days for you to form and make a habit a permanent part of your life. So when we talk about habits, we're talking about systems. Your brain loves predictability. It loves to be able to operate with minimal energy. So if something is a habit, it's something that you're accustomed to doing. So the brain doesn't have to think about breathing. The brain doesn't have to think about you dressing before you leave the house. Doesn't have to think about once you get into a car, you remembering to start it because that's a habit. It's automatic. So what we want to do is we want to develop this personalized system that's going to apply strictly for you. All right, strictly for yourself. And so, and when you apply that and that becomes a habit, that means that it's now automatic and it's going to feel different if you don't do these things. If you don't keep your data, it's going to feel different if you don't restart smart, if you don't restart strategically. It's going to feel very different if you don't, besides keeping that, if you don't modify your approach. That's what's key about that. So it's important to be sure that you're working and you're personalizing this not only for not only for yourself, but for the audience you serve. So you're getting your assistance not only for that, but for the audience and the people that you are in. Does that make sense? All right, so let me just check in the chat, see if there's any questions here. So I would just want to encourage you, don't stay stuck. If you're ready to finally break this restart cycle and start building on your experience instead of throwing it away, grab one of these slots right now. The link is in the chat, and I'll be here, and I'll be here for a bit. And be sure just to go with talkwithtrevor.com. Go there. That'll give you an opportunity to fill out the form, get some time on my calendar. If if for some reason you're having trouble with booking some time, what I would say is book a time out there. You'll have an opportunity. I'll reach out to you. I'll get a notification about that. I'll reach out to you to confirm that this is a good time for you. If you need to reschedule, I can potentially open up my calendar for certain spots that are closed. But definitely, since my calendar does get filled up, you want to be sure to grab an available spot. Now, if you're having trouble with that, feel free to just send me a private message, and I'm definitely open to work with you so that we can personalize this for your goals, for your audience. All right. So I want to thank you all so much. I appreciate it. Um, Feel free to leave some comments down here. Any questions, put them in the chat. If there's a question that if you're watching this on a replay, put hashtag replay, and I will definitely check back in here to be sure that I'm answering any questions you may have about restarting smart. So I want to thank you all so much, and I will see you all in the next in our next workshop. Thank you so much for staying. Let me stop the share, and I'll see you all soon. Be sure you set your watch for 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesdays. I'll see you all soon, and be sure if you haven't subscribed, hit the bells, subscribe for notifications because I do post content every day. I'll be sure you get that. If you haven't got my book, go ahead and get a copy of my book, which is The Doorways of Life. That's available on Amazon, or you can go to buythedoorwaysoflife.com. That'll take you right to it. That's an opportunity, almost really. That book is going to help you with getting clarity, defining your milestones, and to improve and get you some better decision-making skills. So, The Doorways of Life. Be sure you get yourself a copy of that. Right. So I want to thank you all so much for joining me. Thank you for spending this time, and I'll look forward to connecting with you in our next workshop or even earlier. Get yourself a spot now, talkwithtrevor.com. I'll see you soon. Have an excellent day. Be blessed.